And there you go. For Freaky Friday, we're on the air.
Are we live?
We're live.
No. No, how'd we do that?
The Jets won. The Mets won. What do you want out of life?
The Jets won. Now, how am I supposed to hate Aaron Donald? Aaron Rodgers, I mean. I can hate Aaron Donald easily. How am I supposed to hate Aaron Rodgers after that?
Well, the coach Sally tried to give him a hug on the sidelines. You see that replay?
No, I hadn't seen that.
And he refused it. He was felt violated. He felt interrupted in his mojo. He gave him stink eye.
He's
And the
a
coach
whack job, isn't he?
and the coach just went, "What are you going to do?"
He's a whack job. But I mean, it was easy to love.
Well, he's confused. The Jets are winning, and he doesn't know what to do about it.
Well, yeah. I mean, come on. You think he's confused? How do you think I feel? I haven't seen that Christmas game out of the Jets. Um, I don't know that I can remember. I mean,
I didn't watch the game, but I checked the score, and it was 24-7. I go, "What the hell's going on over there?"
Mark Sanchez, man, was the last quarterback I saw maybe throw like that. Brett Favre, Vinnie Testaverde. I mean, an incredible. Not just that they looked good, but they looked crisp. They looked like a football team.
They were executing instead of just winning by accident.
Well, you can, and let's take the politics, and let's take the idiocy, and let's take the craziness, and let's take everything else out of the equation for a second. Okay,
All the podcasts too. Please take all the podcasts out.
podcast, the Joe Rogan, all of it. But let's just throw it away for a second. Let it be like it was in the '60s when
19,
you really
19,
didn't know and you didn't care how your sports heroes felt about anything.
there was no way to find out anyway.
Yeah, because the guys, the reporters in the locker room and in the
They,
clubhouses
they didn't care
never
either.
told people.
No.
So if you do that, you can be a very happy Jets fan this morning. You can be, you can have at least for last night a feeling that there's hope. I mean, see, that's the thing when you're a Jets fan, Mikey. There's no hope. There's never any hope.
Well, I
It's
know
like
all about it.
1970s New York. You
I know
walk
all
down the
about it.
street, and there's garbage here, and there's muggings there, and there's gunshots there, and there's nothing.
In fact, there was a part of the town called Alphabet City where nobody went. Those days are gone.
Yeah, I mean, and that was the Jets. Was the Giants for a while too, back in the '70s before they got good in the '80s
Well, it's the San
when
Francisco Giants this
Alex
year.
Webster was there, and any quarterback that they could find,
Biff Jiggerman.
Biff Jiggerman. As a matter of fact, many weeks Biff Jiggerman went from the Giants game to the Jets game.
It's going to be some kind of game.
Although I got to tell you that the Jets at least always had a quarterback that went over several years. It was just always that they weren't a good quarterback.
And they got worse because they were sacked regularly.
Well, they were Richard Todd. I mean, that was the caliber of quarterback that they had. But they would keep them. That was the really bad thing is that the owner of the team, Leon Hess, not to
So
be confused with Leonard Toast, who owned the Eagles. It was always funny to me that that Leon Hess had the gas stations, and Leonard Toast had the trucking company.
so toast trucks would pull into Hess stations and
Pull
fill
it
them
to
up.
Hess station. and but there was never hope, Michael. There was nothing. And then finally you know the gangrene came along, and guys like Klecko and Gastineau, and then it was all in '81, all dashed
Very
by a
brief.
guy that you and I met together in Miami, A.J. Dewey.
Yep.
It was all put asunder for years. Finally, in the 90s, they had the New York Sack Exchange. And once again, they got good, and they had a great quarter. They had good quarterbacks. They
Was that
want
the
now.
last?
They
Was
got to
that the
test
la-
the
was
birdies.
that the last hope you had?
Well, excuse me. They made the. Boy, I'm trying to think of the last 2 years. So it had to be 90, maybe 2000, and the Seahawks were still in the Kingdom, I believe.
Some people still
Or
think they're
maybe they
there.
were at Husky Stadium, but they made the AFC Championship game 2 years in a row with Mark Sanchez.
Yeah. From USC, you can thank me later.
Yeah, and they, but since then there's been no playoffs even. I mean, it's not even 1-0.
Did Dan Orlovsky ever play for the Jets or back up for the Jets? Because he's available.
I don't think so, but if we can still throw it, send him over. Because we know as Jet fans that this isn't going to last.
Somebody. If you keep playing like that, someone's going to get hurt.
I mean, it's just obvious that if you're a Jets fan, you look at this and you say, "This, what week is this all going to fall apart?"
Remember when we beat the Patriots? Remember those days? Remember those wonderful heady days when we beat the Patriots 24-7?
Well, that used to be the season
One
for
victory.
the Jets. The season for the Jets was beating the Patriots.
One upset victory and then nothing.
If the Jets could beat the Patriots one or two times in a year, because they play them twice, because we're in the same division, Jet fans would walk away going, "That's a good year. We screwed Belichick." That was as wonderful
And that was hard
as
to
it was
do
going to get.
because that's a difficult hurdle to get over.
Yeah, well, they had the first. First they had. Um, um, uh, let's think. Let's go back a second here. I mean, the Jets couldn't even beat. Forget about Brady and forget about. Well, I'm spacing on his name now. The kid out of Wazoo.
He's the vintner. He's got a.
But Biff Jiggerman out of Wazoo, who lost his job to Brady.
He grows wine.
Drew Bledsoe.
Thank you.
Yeah. The Jets couldn't even beat Steve Grogan.
Understandable. He was a great quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, everybody knows Steve Grogan. He's in the Hall of Fame, right? So so last night, and I didn't watch the whole game because I was busy cross town at Citi Field.
There was a little something going on.
Helping the sports story of the year happen. But let me finish the Jets thought first. But when I saw the second half, and when I joined the game, I think it was 14-3. I saw a guy slinging the ball that could put it wherever he wanted.
Yeah, he does have that.
I saw receivers, something I haven't seen maybe since Al Toon,
running an
or
actual
Wesley
route.
Walker,
Yeah,
that had the presence of mind, inside the three to do a juke move and move into the end zone instead of just stopping. See, when you want to win a championship, when you have soul in your team, and you watch the 49ers, you know the drill.
some guys don't like
You
being
do the
tackled.
extra thing. You make the extra move, the yards after catch, the yak. Any coach will tell you it's the yak, right?
YAC.
Okay, say. And the Jets showed that they had that last night. And you combine that with a quarterback, and then you combine that with tackles that actually go out and tackle those guys that are on the other side. We saw that last night. We hadn't seen that.
Find the guy with the ball. That was Ray Nitschke's advice. Find the guy with the ball.
But I mean, I'm talking about the offensive guys. The offensive guys, with the Jets, you didn't see it. You never saw Jet offensive lines in years. Keep the linebackers and keep the D linemen off of the quarterback.
Was Rodgers sacked at all last night?
I don't know. Not while I was watching. He came close a couple of times and he danced out of it. I mean, what he did so well last night, and I gained it. And again, we are pretending like we don't know Aaron Rodgers' political affiliations, his whack jobness, the whole thing. We're back in the 60s. His ability to come out and make a play when it looks like it's going to bust was something to watch. He looks like he's coming out of, he's got the ball, he's looking, and he's looking down his receivers, and he doesn't see anybody, but yet he catches the one guy who just broke a yard ahead of the guy over there.
And for a while had nothing to do. I'll wait for the ball.
Yeah, and had the presence to come back to the ball and give him a play. And he finds the guy. And he has this ability to put it
where only he can catch
out here.
Yeah.
Out here. Right here. Wherever he needs to put it. I got to say, Michael, I was very impressed with him last night.
Well, it's hard to come back from his injury. I know that he had all the best doctors and he had the best training and he had the best recoup, and the recovery was flawless, but it's very hard to come back from that injury.
Well, that's got to be him. That speaks to his ability to work, the way he danced around that field last night. Now, I don't know what age is going to do to him. I don't know what injury is going to do to him. I don't know what other play, but the way he put on a clinic last night, for what I saw. And again, we're taking politics out of this for a minute, he's a hell of a football player.
He could make a comment to the press today that would ruin everything.
I'm sure he will. And it won't even be to the press. He'll be sitting at the
Carnegie Deli.
No, what's the diner? There's a diner, the Munson Diner.
For Thurman
on
Munson?
Route 3, right by the Meadowlands. He'll be sitting in the Munson Diner having some scrambled eggs and, I don't know, corned beef, hash, and he'll say something to his friend while he's sitting at the counter, and a reporter from the Daily News will be sitting, 3 seats away, hear what he says, write it up, and we'll hate him again. But for today.
Meanwhile, across town.
Meanwhile, back in the jungle, I was looking at the Mets and I was saying, oh, gee, they're going to put a 10 spot up for me. Bob Murphy would be happy on his 100th birthday that the Mets came along and said, yay, 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 Acuna, Acuna, Acuna.
And what's that? Is his first name Angel?
Not Floor Angel, Luis Angel.
Luis Angel.
Luis Angel. I don't know who named him, but I love it.
His mama came up with that one.
I just love the guy. I mean, he's playing like a guy that's been up for 10 years. Don't know if it's going to last. Don't know, again, it's the Mets. But what a beating they put on the Phillies last night. It's the first time, and yesterday, by the way, in case you didn't know, was Met broadcaster Bob Murphy's, the late Bob Murphy's 100th birthday.
Wow. Okay. So it was an important day.
So it was an important day in Metland. People are still reeling from the loss of Ed Kranepool. And the Mets did something on Bob Murphy's birthday that they hadn't done in the entire existence of the franchise. They scored 10 runs in 3 consecutive games.
Oh,
Never done that before.
that's a good way to win 3 games in a row.
Well, sometimes the Mets pitching, they might have scored, I've been to games where they scored 10 runs and lost by 4. So,
It happens.
yeah, I mean, it's a Jet score instead of a Mets score. But they're clicking on all cylinders right now. The pitching is good, not great, not as good as Mariner pitching, who can't seem to, buy a run for love of money. Finally, they got a win against the Yankees yesterday. I mean, they lost the night before 1-0, and they won yesterday 3-2, I believe.
With the strangest double play in baseball history.
Well, no, that was the night before.
Yeah, 3-2, they lost that one, right?
Yeah, that was, and of course, in that one, they had the tying run for the game on third base, and he got picked off.
Smokey Burgess.
I guess, I want to be hard on him, and if it wasn't for the fact that he was that he he's made just some terrible mistakes this year, some really dumb ass stuff.
Does he have an attention deficit disorder?
I don't know what he has, but he doesn't have what he had the year before. That's for sure. Now, call it a rookie, a sophomore jinx, call it whatever you want to call it. But this kid needs to get his head out of his ass.
Maybe he should have breakfast at the Munson Diner and see if that clears him up.
See if that helps him out a little bit. And that was it was a tale of two teams yesterday. In that you watch the Mets, and you can see how much they want it. And there's guys on that Mets team that were on this Mariner team last year. Luis Torrens, Jesse Winker, not household names, but you know what?
There they are.
They're the Brian Doyle and the Buddy Biancalana of 2024. They're
what poetry? Buddy Biancalana. That's poetry.
And Marin County's own. And so you saw a Mariner team yesterday. I'm not going to say they didn't want it because they won, but you've seen a Mariner team in the Yankees that had their head up their ass a couple of days.
Yeah, Mariner style.
Yeah. And yet, people went down, and last night you looked at the Met game, or yesterday afternoon, I should say, you looked at the Met game, and you saw a team where it looked like there were 30 guys on that bench, 35 if you count the coaches and whatever.
That had an idea.
That had an idea. That said that, you know what? We started this season, I don't know, what was it, 15-30 or something like that? But we all know that we weren't that bad. And we went from 15-30 to I don't know what it is, 60-20. And,
you got to win or you can't play postseason. You can't play in October.
Right. No big trades. No big, they just took it. And this is what I love about the team. They took it upon themselves to become winners.
How many kids did they bring up that are playing besides Acuna?
I think there's 3 or 4 at least.
That's a good sign.
And they got a few that are everyday players. JD Martinez, Acuna is now an everyday player since who you call it went down. It's just I mean, something clicked in that team. They'll write a book about this team if they get in. If I mean, they're going to get into the playoffs. So we're going to go from that. Hopefully, I think they'll see the Padres in the first round of the playoffs.
You
In
can
the
do
wild
them.
card.
They're doable.
Well, they're going to have a little help, Michael, because I'm going to be in San Diego. It looks like when I don't know when that game is going to be. I got to look at the schedule, but I'm going to be down there,
Look out. I'm giving you fair warning. Look out. He's coming.
and I'm coming with the hat, and I'm
It's
going
a
to work
lo-
my connections to get into the ballpark and be there.
Excellent. Good job.
If
Well, while we're talking about baseball, I got to come north from San Diego just a little bit and talk about my hated Dodgers.
yeah, what?
I don't know what you can say about somebody who hits a single, two doubles, three home runs, and steals two bases, all in a 9 inning game. It was a remarkable show of power and grace. His swing is probably the most beautiful thing in baseball this year. And that's hard for me to say because I do hate the Dodgers thoroughly, completely, and professionally. But Shohei Ohtani, by the way, how tall is he? Is he 6'4"? He seems like he's the biggest. He's the biggest kid on the team.
He's a. Do you think that in any way he was upset that he didn't hit for the cycle yesterday? Because it was the only thing wrong with that performance, right?
I don't know. I don't know that he's registered disappointment over anything so far.
Doesn't seem like.
And he's coming back from an injury. This is him when he's hurt and can't pitch.
Well, I heard it. I think it was the Fox broadcast that I heard an interesting thing, and I can't remember who. Oh, it was It'll come to me in a second. AJ Brzezinski said that enjoy him stealing the 50 bases because he won't ever do it again.
If he pitches, he can't steal.
Right. If he pitches, he won't steal. And which is a great point. I don't want to wear the luck out of the hat.
Would you pitch it? Would you pitch him next year?
Would I pitch him next year? I'd ask him. I'd say, what do you want to do? You want to pitch? You want to catch? You want to play first base? You want to sit in the stands for half the game? You want to manage the team? You want to clean the toilets? You want to park cars outside? You want to sit out a game? You want to stand up a game? You want to hang from your boots in the dugout? You can do anything you want to do.
Send the manager up to get you a Dodger dog.
How would that be, man?
Come on, time for Dave Roberts to go up and get Ohtani a Dodger dog.
Oh my God! I wonder. I thought this yesterday. If he's going to be the guy to break DiMaggio's record,
that's a tough one.
It may be the toughest record in sports. It may be.
For anyone who doesn't appreciate what happened, you've got to watch the baseball documentary and watch that section where DiMaggio goes on the run, and then he misses one day, and then he goes for 36 more games.
Yeah. That was the thing nobody ever talks about.
That's the exclamation mark. He set the record, missed one day, and went for 36 more straight games. My God.
Yeah, I mean, how do you, but I wonder, and I don't think he will because of pitching. Again, pitching, his pitching certainly is part of the package. But there's a pretty good case here for, like you said, why don't you give up pitching?
It's cost you 2 surgeries in 8 years.
Yeah, give it up and just be a star. Don't worry about the mental stuff that you got to go through the pitch, the prep, the this, the that. Unless he's the guy that it comes easy. There are those guys. We've both seen them in history. Um, Most of them are relievers, but there's certain starters. I think Rick Russell was one, if I'm not mistaken, that don't need a lot of prep.
Just go out there and throw it.
They pick up the ball and they chuck it. They throw their bullpens and they take the ball and go out and throw it.
One of the funniest things to watch was Rick Russell doing pregame warm-ups with the team. Everybody's touching their toes and doing push-ups and sit-ups and stretches. He's just sort of, a little of this, a little of that. I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm warm. I'm warm.
But those guys that can do now maybe Otani is one of those creatures. It'd be fascinating to talk to somebody that covers the team and find out how much.
They claim he's one of the hardest workers on the team in terms of his prep.
Right. No, I don't doubt that he works hard. I'm not saying he doesn't work hard. I'm just saying that
it comes to
you got the pitcher, the pitchers that you can't talk to them the day before, and they have to eat the same meal every day that they pitch. The whole pitchers thing that we see.
That used to be the Giants clubhouse. You couldn't talk to anybody. Everybody. There wasn't a winning team. It wasn't a successful team. It wasn't a playoff team. But it was an angry team, and you think they were angry at the press because that's the way they treated everybody. But they were just angry with each other and with their fate.
Yeah, and it was so funny because the A's were so totally different.
Loose as can be.
You go over to the Coliseum, man, and you walk into the A's clubhouse. Music can be blasted, reporters hanging out, talking to people, it was just loose, man.
Completely different atmosphere.
Completely different. Now the press box meals and the press meal wasn't as good over at Oakland.
Well, San Francisco
was
even
horrible. No, it was horrible actually. How do you feel about, because it's coming up here, right? I have to look at the schedule, but it's going to be here the next week, I think. How do you feel about? Oh yeah, because my daughter's going, so it has to be like this weekend. How do you feel about the last game in Oakland for the A's? I mean, I know you're a Stone Giants fan.
Well, I don't care because they're going out in an ignoble way. They're going out weak. They're not going out strong. They're going out hurt. They're not going out well. They're going out after angering and destroying their fan base instead of taking it with them and honoring it. And so the team says, oh, you were an A's fan? We don't care. I just want you to know that up front. If you're an A's fan, please understand we do not care. So it's going to be hot in Sacramento, but no one's going to be there to see it.
So you don't think that a lot of people are going to make the trip up?
Some will, of course.
Yeah, I think some will, especially weekends.
But the deal with Vegas still seems to be penciled in to me. They haven't got a deal.
Thursday the 26th is the final game versus the Rangers. It's a day game at the Coliseum.
Go Bruce Bochy.
And I find this fascinating. It's the replica Coliseum Stadium giveaway.
Get a little Coliseum in a box.
I guess. Um, my ex-wife and daughter are going
Can
to
you
that
can you
game.
reconfigure it for football by moving the little seats around?
Well, yeah, they should try to get a football team there. What a joke!
Oh, the
But
joke.
so you're kind of you don't care really, right?
I don't care.
Not that
I'm
you don't
sorry.
care, but you're just kind of ambivalent about it.
Well, instead of going out with class and with dignity, they went out through the back door.
Well, but do teams ever leave a city with class and dignity? I mean, think about teams that have left their cities.
No, it's always the middle of the night stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think of the moves um that baseball teams made that I remember.
Milwaukee
Um,
to Atlanta.
yeah, the Dodgers leaving Brooklyn, although they did, to be fair, O'Malley, but and you can make a pretty good case that Robert Moses screwed the pooch on that one. That if Robert Moses had if O'Malley and Moses would have gotten along, maybe there would have been a stadium built in Brooklyn over the Atlantic Avenue yards, and the Dodgers would still be playing there, and it'd be the Los Angeles Mets.
The Hollywood Stars.
Yeah, certainly be a. You can make a case for that, and then of course you can make the case that the Giants got roped into the deal because O'Malley needed
Stoner.
um, needed somebody to go with him. They wouldn't send him out there alone. Milwaukee, Boston, in what was it, 53? No, nobody cared that the Braves went.
No.
Nobody cared that the Browns were leaving St. Louis because those cities had another team in that league. Well, in its opposite league.
And those teams
But
weren't most loved. They weren't the best
right, but
loved
they
team.
weren't the most loved team in the city. They were, the Browns were always the second team in St. Louis. The Braves were always the second team in Boston.
That was never going to change.
And it wasn't going to change. Moved to Milwaukee when the Braves left Milwaukee in what was it, 66? They crept out in the middle of the night.
Sometimes your fans care, sometimes they don't care. And so you got to be careful where you move if nobody says anything about where you must move, like the 49ers. Where we're going? Santa Clara? Sounds good. We can be the San Jose 49ers. It's never worked out for them. Never.
It took, with the 49ers, it took, it was like when you put the stadiums in suburbia, which in essence the 49ers did. You take the soul of the team away. There's a certain thing. It's like the Jets are the Jets, but they're really the New Jersey Jets. They say New York, and the Giants say New York, but they play in a different place.
Do they still practice in Purchase, or is that the Knicks?
No, that's the Giants that used to practice in Purchase. No, I think the Jets used to practice in Hofstra, but I think they've moved to Florham Park, New Jersey, or something like that.
So the guys live in New Jersey for the most part. Nobody lives in.
So yeah, so some guys live in the city, obviously. You got that kind of bank. It's easy for you to live in Manhattan. Although, it's interesting with the baseball players. Not a lot of them used to live in Manhattan.
They lived in Queens, Brooklyn.
Mostly Long Island. If you were at Shea, city, a lot of them lived on Long Island. Matter of fact, the only guy, well, not the only guy, I'm sure there were others, but I know that Keith Hernandez lived in Manhattan for a while. I know that John Olerud used to live in Manhattan and take the subway, take the 7 train to the ballpark all the time.
Excellent.
So, I mean, him and his wife and his kids lived in Midtown Manhattan. I don't know if it was Midtown, might have been the Upper East Side actually.
That sounds
But
about right.
Olerud had said that if he was going to play in New York, he wanted to enjoy that New York experience.
I would
So,
too. I would too if I lived there.
yeah, I mean, if you can live in Manhattan, if you have or at least Queens, Long Island City, I mean, if you have the ability to live there, why wouldn't you? So I'm sure that some of the Giants and Jets live there. But to get back to what I was saying, there's a certain soul, Michael,
You can't
that
just put up you can't just put up a stadium. That's not enough. It's got to be in the right place.
yeah, it's got to. It's there's something that goes on. Like if the Green Bay Packers ever left Green Bay,
And let's just left Lambeau. Let's tear it down.
it wouldn't be the Green Bay Packers. You may as well change the name of the team.
Well, they'd probably move the team to Milwaukee and just call them Green Bay.
Yeah. Well, they did, I think, when they were didn't they do that? Well, there were a couple of years when I know that they were down there because they were renovating Lambeau.
Yeah,
And then I think, if I'm not mistaken, they used to play a couple of games at County Stadium every year.
they have done that. You're right.
So, but that's different. They're still the Green Bay Packers. You're not, but I have never been to a football game at County Stadium. But I would guess that it was a different. I've been to games at Lambeau,
That's
and
where you
there's
own the
nothing like
atmosphere.
there's
That's where
just
you own it.
there's. I mean, I will tell you and everybody else that loves sports, if you ever get a chance to go to Lambeau Field and watch a game, not just watch a game, but go before the game, the night before the game, and then stay after the game.
Sit around with the owners like you do.
Sit around with the people. Park your car across the street in somebody's driveway well, I'm sure they're charging more now, but for $10, and then buy some peanuts from the kids that are selling them on the lawn of their house because there's houses right across the street on all fours from Lambeau. It's just there's no that's the soul of that team.
You just can't mess with it.
Yeah. So I don't believe that so the A's will lose that when they go to
How
Sacramento.
many times did they move? Philadelphia, Kansas City, Oakland. Did I miss one?
No, Philly, Kansas City, Oakland,
And Las Vegas.
Sacramento.
Theoretically, yeah.
Well, we don't know that they're going to Las Vegas.
They haven't signed a deal.
I mean, it's entirely feasible, and I'm not saying this will happen. I'm not saying I know anything.
They'll come back to Oakland.
That the commissioner would say to them, "Listen, we want the two teams in Northern California."
Plus, you beat the Giants every time you play them. What are you worried about?
Yeah. Now, again, you know me and you know how I feel about this. I am going to lay the blame for this, a pretty big part of it, at the feet of the Giants.
Because they had market considerations that they exercised.
Right. They could have asked the A's, hey, give us, I don't know, $10 million or $20 million or something, and go move to San Jose.
You got to have more than 20, otherwise you can't get a starting pitcher with that kind of money. You need more.
You can't park the car in San Jose for $20 million. But Larry Baird decided that well, I don't know that he did this, but it seems like Larry Baird decided, in my opinion, that he didn't want competition. Um, and I'm sure that he knows more about this than I do.
And the two teams never really seem to get along that well.
No, it always seemed to be it was just oil and water. But it still would have been an incredible thing to have a competition between San Jose and San Francisco like that.
A
Um,
bus, a
I
bus
gotta
ride.
I gotta go let the clean a lady, and I'll be right back.
She do a good job.
Oh man, cleans it right up. Oh, speak among yourself.
Well, I don't know what to discuss because the news is so bad, Vinny, that I can't
You
find
know
out.
what? Talk about North Carolina. I think there's something going on there.
Yeah, there is.
I may be wrong.
Today's the last day for them to figure out if they want to put that guy or someone else on the ballot. And my pager hasn't exploded. That's a positive. My walkie-talkie is still intact. Who's got walkie-talkies anyway? Only kids have walkie-talkies. Only children have walkie-talkies, and nobody has pagers. So I don't know where the exploding technology is like years behind the curve. 3 o'clock in the morning after watching Lord of the Rings, the latest chapter, my body says, "Why don't you get up and take a pee?" And so I did. A pee at 3, and that was it. The cats looked at me and said, "You're not going back to bed. How about a long drink of water?" So I turned on the water in the bathroom, gave the cats their middle of the night drink, and I've been up since then. How do I look? Good. That's my story. Uh, and I'm not a napper. I used to be more convincing as a napper, but see if I can catch up this afternoon because I want to see Rachel Maddow's first documentary from Russia with Lev tonight. See how she put it together. See if she had some good help. The San Francisco sports writers are at war with one another over whether Buster Posey really made the deal with Chapman at third base or somebody else came up with the idea. And they're touting the fact that they're going to just clean the front office in San Francisco and Bob Melvin with it because, quite frankly, it wasn't a season that anybody would want to remember with a party and a long contract to the people responsible for the lineups that we had suffered through. Uh, so I'm expecting major changes to the team, the front office, and their way of doing business, which is looking like a AAA team and not being able to play 500 ball for. Well, we had the 3 years of the World Series. Yes, I haven't forgotten that. But following it, we've been a 500 or less team, and can't seem to shake it. Can't seem to find a winning way. Can't seem to find a winning lineup, and don't seem to show it on the field. I don't see concern among the players. I don't see angst. I don't see an edge. I don't see. It's worthy of Casey's question, which I ask all the time. Can anybody here play this game? And the answer for the Giants is some of us can, but not all the time. Yes, we get on base, then we forget where we're going. It's not my fault that I forgot I had to touch second base. It's somebody else's concern. It's a team that I love dearly, but I quote Leo DeRocher all the time because it's applicable. Winning isn't everything, but losing is nothing, and that's what we've majored in. We've learned how to do the nothing part of baseball very well. We've come to grips with nothing. We've got we've got our ability to cling to it like it means something, but it doesn't. It's nothing. What are you doing? Nothing. Where you been? Nowhere. What do you got plans for it? Not nothing tonight. I'm not doing anything. What about your next at bat? Good question. But I'm planning. I'm not planning anything. That's for sure. Something could happen. But not, and the inevitability of the Giants game is, why should I worry about it? It doesn't seem to affect anybody else in the team. If I do get on first base, I realize how long it is before I can get to score, and I just lose interest. So that's my team. I don't know what to do about it except clean house and start again with different guys.
Yeah, Mikey. I don't
Sometimes you
know
got
what
to
you do in the Giants
sometimes
situation.
you got to discard. You got a bad hand. What are you going to do? You're going to hold on to it. You can. That's your choice. If you think it's going to change somehow overnight. But my advice is get rid of those cards you don't need.
You got a good manager.
He didn't have a
You
good
got,
hitter.
who has a history. And I think part of the reason that they really wanted to bring Bob Melvin in is because he had a history of with the A's
Of working
of
magic.
working, taking the pieces that he had and turning it into
A little bingo for crying out loud.
something. Being given not much of anything and being able to put those. I mean, when you talk about great managers, you got to talk about Bob Melvin because he's done more with less than probably anybody in 20 years in the last 20 years in the game.
He didn't come out of that San Diego experiment with much on the ball. I'm afraid. I'm not
Well,
blaming Bob
yeah,
Melvin.
I
I'm just
mean,
saying
the
he
possibility is
he didn't help.
that it could be done.
How can you be
That it
done?
could be,
If you got players, you can win.
yeah. But I like Bob. I'd like to see the Giants go out and get him some players. I mean, what is it with the Giants? Is it the money? Is it the? I mean, they play. They should have all the money they need.
They had Chapman at third base, a good hitter, a good third baseman, a good team leader. And Buster Posey had to tell him, "Are you going to sign this guy? What the hell are you doing? You're going to lose him. Sign him up now. Give him a contract. Make him stay here. You got a third baseman if you keep him." And they had to be dragged into it, kicking and screaming.
And it never helps
Robbie,
relations.
I would keep Bobby Ray. I would keep Blake Chanel, and I would get myself a new team.
Now I heard that Snell's only on a 1 year deal, right?
Yeah.
I've heard that he wants to go back to the Padres. I don't know if that's true, not true, or
Couldn't
what.
tell you.
But I was reading, a couple
And
of the.
in his last 10 starts, he's striking out 10, 12, 13 guys a game.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't get rid of. I would do what I could. Listen, you got to have pitching, right? If you have anything else, you got to have pitching.
And I would keep Blake Snell.
Keep Blake Snell. Keep Robbie Ray. Seems to be having a decent year after he come off of his injury.
Yep.
I don't know what they have. What do they have in their farm system? Anything?
Most of it's up. Most of it's playing right now.
Well, and that could be the thing. I mean, see, I don't. I come from a school where I've seen two things. I saw in the 60s George Weiss and Bing Devine and Johnny Murphy go out and pick up these players for the Mets and bring these disparate pieces in from other teams that basically weren't doing anything on those teams. I mean, you think about it.
They weren't starters.
Yeah, they weren't starters. They brought in Al Weiss. I think he was with the White Sox. They grew Cleon Jones, but they brought in Tommy Agee, who was, the fourth outfielder in Chicago, I believe. They brought in Ed Charles, who had played in Baltimore and had been a bench guy. His career was.
The pieces
But
fit.
they were, and then they grew their pitching staff. They concentrated on their pitching staff. And then they got lucky. They had two incredible pieces of luck. They picked Tom Seaver's name out of a hat, and they got Don Clendenin when he decided that he didn't want to play for the Montreal Expos.
But they were both players, so there was some luck, but there was also some talent.
But they were talented players. I mean, obviously, Seaver, except for one asshole, would have been in a unanimous Hall of Famer. Don Clendenin was the MVP of the '69 World Series. And when Clendenin replaced Cranepool at first base at the trading deadline in July, the team won. The team looked like they do today.
They looked
All
marvelous.
of a sudden, everybody started playing. Swoboda they brought up from their farm system. Leon Jones was from their farm system, I believe. Tommy Agee was from the White Sox, and then they had that Buddy Harrelson came up through their system. So they had this mix and match of people, but the GMs were smart enough to go out. Then you have teams that do it like the Mets did it. And I go to the Mets because it's what I know the best.
Right. You remember what they did with their farm.
But when you go to they were so bad for a couple of years that they had all these great picks. And so they got Mookie Wilson. They got Darryl Strawberry. They had this incredible team down at Tidewater being managed by Davey Johnson. You had Dwight Gooden. And then they made a few trades. Lee Mazzilli, who was a darling in New York. People screamed about that trade, not as much as the Seaver trade, but a lot. Because he was their matinee. He was their matinee idol. But Lee Mazzilli got him Walt Terrell and Ron Darling. And Darling was as big a piece of 86 and 85. And then they went out and they rolled the dice on two money players, Gary Carter and Keith Hernandez.
The kid
in the Mets. And again, Pat Gillick in 99. Now, I'll tell you what, now, I know he doesn't get the credit that he's supposed to get, but I'll give you that Woody Woodward did as good of a job with the Mariners in 95, 96, and 97 as you possibly could have done. Think about what he had, between the players he had that were there that were from the farm system and the players that they went out and got when they couldn't spend any money.
His hands were tied.
He had nothing to spend. He was horse trading. What he brought in. Now, did he make mistakes? Yeah, if you want to say Jason Varitek for Heathcliff Slocum, but that was the currency he had. And he knew if he didn't win something, that team was gone. So he had enough superstars that he was paying at a low price to go out and take a risk on trading the Varitek. Take a risk on trading
Kevin
who's
Mitchell.
the other guy they traded? They made everybody said they made a bad trade on. But and he got them to the playoffs and almost to the World Series in 95.
Yep.
And that's what the Giants, I think, need to do.
Well, they did a lot of horse trading then. They moved a lot of names in and out, but nothing clicked. And that's what they were looking for, a little chemistry, but they never created it.
But what's their core? Is their core? That's the thing. Now this and to be fair, after Pat Gillick left and after Lou Piniella left, because they also had the right manager, they had a guy who knew how to light a fire under guys' asses, the Mariners. The Mets had the right manager in Gil Hodges. 73, Yogi Berra, not so much. Davey Johnson in 86, yeah. 85, 86. But they brought him up from Tidewater with all of it, with everybody else. I mean, they brought the whole damn thing up.
He earned his stripes.
So I guess the question becomes, is Bob Melvin Gil Hodges? Is Bob Melvin in Giants land sitting on a team that if they get and I don't even know who's the general manager, Fahadi, what?
Farhan.
Yeah, Farhan. I'm not impressed with him.
But he's made a lot of moves, but nothing's paid off. He came from the
Yeah.
Dodgers.
And I know that's sometimes how it goes. But you got a ton of bank, man. You got to sign the people that you need to sign on your club and make them happy. And you got to go out and you got to spend money.
Well, they tried to spend money. They entertained an offer for Otani and a couple other players and got none of them. Nothing was serious. I don't think they know how to court.
Well, Otani wasn't going. I mean, to be fair, there was one place Otani was going. You know it. I know it. We all know it. Otani wasn't going anywhere but the Dodgers. I think it became evident that if you remember that whole thing that was going on, that seemed to be. It didn't seem like he was going anywhere else. Yeah, there was buzz. He was going to go here and the Yankees and the Mets and this and that. He wasn't
also,
going anywhere.
Don't forget, they said, well, he's good, but he's not $700 million good.
Well, the Dodgers think he is. And you know what? They may have got the bargain of all time.
Now the road teams are rooting for him every time he comes up. You go play Milwaukee, you go play in Houston, wherever they play. The home team is rooting for Otani every time he comes up.
Yeah, but I just don't think Otani. I just didn't think that Otani was going anywhere. From everything I read with Otani, he loved Southern California. He loved that lifestyle. He loved being on the West Coast. And again, you get that in San Francisco. But San Francisco is a very different lifestyle, as you know, than Los Angeles.
Oh, yes.
It's a totally different thing.
And the cultures of the team. The Dodgers are there to win. They don't care they don't care who you are or what you've done. If you can't help them win, you're gone.
Yeah, you're there to win. They'll pay you the money. They will pay you the money. But
under one condition,
you got they will also get rid of you as quickly if you don't. And so as far as the Giants, Michael, I don't know. You had mentioned a couple of shows ago that Buster Posey was thinking about becoming the general manager of that team.
Well, he's a part owner.
Yeah. Or maybe even I don't know that would be a bad idea.
I don't think it's a bad idea.
I don't know that. I think
if that general manager comes to talk to you about baseball, he's got 3 World Series rings with him.
That's it. And another thing about this, and I don't know the Giants general manager that well. I don't follow the Giants as closely as you do, but I know that I see it with the Mariners. I want a general manager. If I own a team, I want a general manager. And this is something that Pat Gillick and I talked about years ago. We were sitting in Chicago having breakfast together. I mean, what a freaking charmed life. You get to sit down and have breakfast with Pat Gillick. And he's funny because he always used to call me New York. He would never call me Vinnie. He would say, hey, New York, what's going on? New York. So I'm sitting with Pat Gillick and having breakfast, and I says to Pat, and this is before stats and everything. I asked him right out, I said, what makes you so good? I mean, look at what you've done here in 2 years. This was 2000. I actually think it was 2001. And I said, "What makes you so good?" He says, "I can tell a baseball player."
That's all.
That's it.
That's
I
the
can look
game.
at a guy and tell you if he's a baseball player
By the way, he stands at second base.
by just the way he carries himself, the way he approaches the plate, the way he plays the field. He doesn't have to be a five-tool player, but I can tell you, I can look at a guy and tell you he's a baseball player. And I have guys on my staff that can go out and look at a guy and tell you that he's a baseball player. It's not about stats. It's not about this. It's not about that. Yeah, I can look at the stats. At that time, they didn't have the stats they have today, and whatever this bull crap stuff that they come
But
up
Vinny,
with.
they use their eye. All they do is watch. They watch the game and say, "This kid can play. That kid can't."
Yeah, I mean, these are guys that played in the Canadian College League in 1958. They knew who the ball players were. I mean, him and Ron Fairley were on the same team. Fairley could do the same thing. Ron Fairley could look at a guy and tell you he was a ball player.
Yeah, of course he could.
You could say what you want about Ron Fairley's broadcasting, but I truly believe that he should have been a general manager somewhere. He used to carry a book with him, a notebook that he wrote down everything he saw about players. And Fairley could look at somebody and tell you that they were a baseball. And that is the key thing. And I think, Michael, that Buster Posey would be a guy like that for the Giants. I don't know for sure, but I think baseball in many ways has to get away from this attachment to all of these stats and start getting back to people who can look at somebody and tell if they're a baseball player.
Because the stats will help you, but they won't necessarily help you win, strangely enough.
Maybe they help you in some situations. I know that Davey Johnson was one of the first people to
Tony La Russa also
use
played
the
numbers.
computer and look at the stats.
Yeah.
He did that stuff long before when it was first, in the 80s when they first. I mean, he had an Apple computer in his office in the 80s. So
When did they start the videotape? Watch the pitcher last
well,
time out.
they started that in the 80s when VCRs really kind of came in. I mean, I think they did a little bit of it before, but I don't know. I don't know that they did a lot of it before that. But I think by the time the middle 80s came around, and certainly by the time the early 90s came around,
If
because
Ted Williams had that tricky to hit 500.
yeah, because I remember Carl Hamilton, who was the Mariners
Video man.
video guy. Well, what a great guy, ex-Marine, was just a prince of a guy. And I think his son is still the video coordinator for the Rockies. And Carl was as much of a coach to those players that would come and sit in his room. And Carl was nice enough on occasion to let me sit in a room with him when a player would come in. And I get to sit there and watch him and the player kind of looking at what they were looking at.
Map out what they expected that day.
Right. And look at this guy and, what is he, you call up, I don't know, sixth inning of, I don't know, Yankee pitcher Jim Abbott, and boom. And you look at how Abbott works a similar hitter.
What does he throw when he's 0-2? What does he throw?
Right. Exactly. And if you're a baseball player, that's invaluable information. If you're a stat head, yeah, you take the information and maybe you process it. But if you're a baseball player,
you got something to sit on.
You have the ability to think what that guy is going to throw you. That makes you a 275 hitter at least, right?
Yep. Makes you
And if you
dangerous.
really got it, it makes you a 300 hitter and a millionaire. Well, nowadays, I guess you're a millionaire just by showing up.
Johnny LeMaster's a millionaire. How'd you get to be a millionaire, Johnny? Baseball. No, that can't be right. How'd you get to
No,
be a
sorry,
millionaire?
sorry, pal. You must have bought this piece of property a long time ago. Well, I did.
What do
I'm
you
going to
got this
have
weekend, Vin?
Well, this afternoon at 1 o'clock, we're doing American Road Trip magazine, and that'll be on 1150 KKNW in Seattle. You can listen to it online. Got a really great show today. I'm going to talk to a guy who has visited. Um,
Beirut?
I forget the name. How many? I'll have to go back and look. But he's had cerebral palsy since he's a kid, and he has visited hundreds. Well, he's gone to hundreds of road trips to hundreds of NFL games
Mm-hmm.
at all different stadiums. He's been doing it since he's a kid, and he's so inspirational that the NFL Hall of Fame displays his wheelchair
Hey.
in the Hall of Fame. A guy out of San Diego. And I just think he's got a great story. We did baseball road trips last week. We're going to do this guy this week. So we got that. And I'm driving the Kia Sorento X Pro this week. So we'll talk about that
The
a little
Sorrento
bit.
X Pro.
The Kia Sorento X Pro. Oh, Mikey, you love this one. So that's what we got this weekend. What do you got going on this weekend?
We may see the kids. Bo started playing baseball. His first game was last weekend.
Tell them the Giants need help.
He's got a natural swing. You know what? You know what you can tell by looking at him. You can tell that he can play ball just by the way he swings.
That's usually how, I used to swing like this.
You were trying to send it someplace.
Well, Mr. Phil, my little league coach, Mr. Phil Favicchio, used to scream at me, "Level out!" I can hear. That's exactly what he sounded like.
Hit a line drive for crying out too.
Hey, you fat bastard! Level out that swing. And before we go, Mikey, I want to wish a happy birthday in heaven to my father. It would have been 98 today.
Wow, good job, Joe.
One of the toughest old bastards I ever met. But I'll tell you what, man, you couldn't find a guy who knew how to get up when he got knocked down better than him.
Where was he? He was there. What are you doing? I'm doing it again.
I'm getting up. I got knocked down. I figured out how to get up again, and boom. So it's his birthday today. And again, as I said, we said at the top of the show, Bob Murphy, 100 years old yesterday.
And say goodbye to J.D. Souther and Nick Gravenites.
Nick?
Yeah, died yesterday.
Oh, no. Wow. Many times, Last Day Saloon and the Great American Music Hall.
The Electric Flag.
Electric Flag. I mean, he was the wallpaper at the Last Day Saloon.
He was around. All you had to do was wait; he would show up.
If you wanted to see Nick Gravenites, in the 70s and 80s in San Francisco, all you had to do was pick up the pink section and look at it, because he'd be somewhere.
He'd be there, absolutely.
That dude played every night of the week, it seemed.
He was a worker.
And yeah, J.D. Souther, I saw that yesterday. Great songwriter, never got maybe the credit he deserved.
Well, he was always on the periphery. I don't think he wanted to be a performer as badly as some.
Yeah, yeah. But wrote some great songs, and I saw him in the '70s in New York. What was it?
Souther Hillman Fury.
Yes, thank you. With Chris Hillman and Richie
Richie.
Furay. I saw them then, and I think I saw him in a thing with James Taylor
Wow.
once. I think I saw him sing with James Taylor, maybe in Central Park. I know it was an outdoor thing. It might have been Forest Hills. Another great talent. They're leaving us, Michael.
There's vacancies, but there's apartments available.
That's right. There's apartments available. All right. I will catch up with you Monday if the
It'll
Lord's
be
willing and the creek don't rise.
it'll be a miraculous Monday.
Are we gonna join white dudes for Kamala Harris?
We are. I think we're already in. I think we've been grandfathered in.
Yeah, we didn't even get to that bastard in
North Carolina.
North Carolina.
That's right. He's taking care of himself.
Yeah, we don't have to do anything for him.
He's
He's gonna run his own ship right up onto the rocks and
he's
take
done it.
Trump with him.
He's beached his vehicle.
All right, man. I will see you on Monday, man. If the Lord's willing,
Miraculous Monday.
right. Peace, love, Manischewitz, baby.
What a wine. Seriously. See you, Van.
See you, Mikey. And thank you all for listening, man. We always appreciate your listening and your thoughts. Take care. Oh, by the way, it says beers, babes, and baseball. Let's go Mets and let's go Mariners, man. Go down to Texas and kick a little butt. Let's get into the playoffs, huh? All right. See ya.